Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and we're here in Vault 101 to bring the final part of the Vault-Tec series. So I thought it would be fitting to end it where it all began, at least for me. Fallout 3 was my introduction to the Fallout universe, as it was for a lot of other people. And Vault 101 did have an experiment, although it was kind of tame compared to some of the other ones. But because this is where I started my first ever experience of Fallout, I thought it would be a good place to kind of finalise the discussion about Vault-Tec and everything that we've talked about over the last little while. So we're here in my room, and Officer Kendall sadly didn't make it. I honestly don't know what happened there. Not even if anybody asks, but yeah, so this is us during escape, so kind of the end of the tutorial and getting you set up, where we have got a bunch of things. Oh, there's that Butch, there's Butch. So I have already done a few things, like I've saved his mother from the radroaches and everything, and Butch is just going to hang out there just now. So Vault 101, pretty sure we can see the world map. So Vault 101 is here, just sort of near Springvale and to the northwest of Washington DC, which is kind of this slightly brighter area down here. And the experiment for Vault 101 was to have the vault stay closed indefinitely, forever and ever, and assess how a closed off community like that would cope with an overseer who had total control over every aspect of their lives. And because the vault was never intended to be opened, the vault was never given a GEC. So yeah, that was one of the issues that Vault 101 did have to contend with a lot, was that there was radroaches everywhere. I can't get through that door. But yeah, so the alarms are going off. And the overseer is going on and on about what about the radroaches, and of course it's just the radroaches and nothing else has gone wrong here. Everything is fine. Oh, Grandma Taylor didn't make it either in the diner. So this was obviously the location for your 10th birthday party, and Vault 101 security here to help achieve perfection. So yeah, there's these things everywhere with positive messages and stuff. But we can discover during this quest that basically the mandate for keeping the vault completely closed has been broken several times over the years, and the doors have been opened. So a couple of expeditions outside the vault were sent out, and people were let in, and as you do learn later in the story, you're one of them, along with James, your father, voiced by Liam Neeson. There's a classroom. Anyway, let's head up to the atrium. So we're gonna make our way. So normally you come out here and yeah, so Tom and Mary Holden are gunned down. They decide to try and make a run for the exit and get gunned down by these two. Yeah, so Stanley doesn't like Alphonse Almodovar, the current overseer. Understandable. And yeah, the clinic here. So remember that you need to collect the medicine bobblehead from here, either when you come here as a teenager before your go now, or when you come back for Trouble on the Home Front, because if you don't do it by Trouble on the Home Front, you lose the opportunity to get it, essentially. But we can... there's a computer here, but we can't, hang on. So normally you wouldn't be able to open that at this point because you can't really get your lockpick skill up to 50, but this is obviously your mother's favourite Bible verse, and there is something hidden there, and that does let us get access to the medical computer, so that's something that we'll get back to later. I might actually just cut that bit out. So yep, we're going to head up. So got these two guys who are obviously aggressive and it's a very hard lock. So again, you're not going to be picking that lock anytime soon. Officer O'Brien and Officer Richards. You can kind of sneak past these guys, but you know what, they're just going to cause problems. So a lot of these doors, the red lights above them means that you can't go through them, but this door is being held open by a locker, so we can get up here. And there's rad roaches everywhere as well for you to contend with. There's one. Might as well do some bug extermination while we're here. And then we follow the path here to admin. So again, we can't go through any of these doors.
This is your fault. You and your stupid father. He had to go and leave, didn't he? He had to mess things up for everybody.
Yep, so this guy's not happy. Oh, Security Chief Hannon has not made it either. I am definitely leaving the vault. Okay. Right. Yep, again, yet more rad roaches. And then Floyd Lewis, who presumably was one of the techs that worked in the vault, and he has also been killed by the rad roaches, so yeah.
I told you, I don't know anything.
Be reasonable, Amata.
Now did I? Oh yeah, here's an interesting thing. So if you don't take the 10mm pistol from Amata at the beginning, then we'll just have a watch and see what happens.
She's my friend. I was worried about her. What does she have to do with any of this anyway?
Probably nothing. Which is why you need to tell me where she is, so I can talk to her.
Watch out, sir. She's got a gun.
Amata, where did you get that gun?
Just get away from me. I don't want to shoot you, but I will. I swear I will.
How dare you threaten me? And with my own gun. I'm your father, damn you, and you'll show me some respect. Officer Mack, don't just stand there!
Don't make me take that gun away from you, girlie. Just hand it over. Nice and easy now.
No! Get away from me!
Oh my God, Amata! What have you done?
Yeah, so if you refuse to take the 10mm pistol from Amata at the beginning, then you don't have to intervene in this. And even though I've got combat AI turned off, that still happens because it's a scripted kind of event. So she shoots the security guy and then runs off. Let's see if there's anything. It's just a door locking mechanism for the prison cell. So yep, here is Alphonse Almodovar, the overseer of Vault 101, and when he became overseer, he was strongly in favour of maintaining the isolationist community within the vault, and he was not above using security to enforce his rules, including, well, there's Officer Mack, including, you know, threatening his own daughter. So we can have a chat with him here. He won't attack.
I hope you're here to turn yourself in, young lady. You're already in enough trouble as it is. Don't make it worse for yourself.
So, yeah, give me the keys.
Oh, is that? You'll get nothing. Save your sanctimony. The world is a dangerous place, and I make no apologies for doing whatever it takes to keep the vault safe.
Guards, help me! She's here! Don't let her get away!
I don't think anybody's coming to help. There we go. Filter room. We can't go in there. But we can get into the overseer's office. So, you know, this is his big office, obviously, where his underlings worked at their desks. And we do find Jonas, unfortunately, who is carrying a note from our dad. So Jonas was our dad's friend, and he was also has been killed, sadly. So, you know, he's definitely kind of on the side of just enforcing his rules by force, and he's not above killing people in the vault in order to preserve what he believes is the right kind of order and things, which is an interesting choice when you've got a community that's supposed to be closed off, that killing people off maybe isn't the wisest move. But anyway, so let's have a chat with Amata here actually as well.
Oh my god. I had no idea my father would... I had no choice, Officer Mackey. Here, take it. I don't want it anymore. I don't know what I'd do if I still had the gun and my father came looking for me.
Okay, you only did what you had to do.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, you'd better get out of here. I'll try to meet you at the vault door. If I don't make it, good luck.
Yep, so Amata's obviously kind of quite distressed that she's just killed somebody. Understandable. But she does give you the gun back. So, yeah, I'll get the office key from here. You can just pick the lock, but we'll get the key. So, the key will let us in to here. So, now we're in the Overseer's office, and again, you can hack his computer, or you can just take the password out of his locker. So, this is where things are going to get interesting. So, as I said, the vault was supposed to stay completely closed off. The door was never supposed to open, and the Overseer was going to have basically kind of complete control and power over the vault as things continued. But we know that a couple of people left the vault. It's something that Moira Brown mentions when you go to her. Colin Moriarty mentions it as well, that, you know, people that have come out of the vault previously. And then we can learn more from the Overseer's terminal. So you need to get into this computer to open the tunnel, which lets you escape the vault, but there's also quite a few other things here. So Vault-Tec instructions. So letter from Dr. Stanislaus Braun. Letter to the Overseer from Dr. Braun. If you're reading this, emergency vault interment procedures have been initiated and you and your control group have been sealed into your vault. Congratulations, you are now a vital part of the most ambitious program ever undertaken by Vault-Tec. If you have not yet read your sealed orders, do so now. They will outline the experimental protocols assigned to your control group. Please remember that deviation from these protocols in any way will jeopardise the success of the program and may be considered grounds for termination by Vault-Tec Corporation as outlined in your employment agreement. Your vault may or may not have been selected to receive a GEC module. Please see attachment A for details. Dr. Stanislaus Braun, Director, Societal Preservation Program, Vault-Tec Corporation. So we know that that was the program, and he's saying that you might get GEC or you might not, and you should read over what your experiment protocol is going to be. And then attachment A is Vault 101 will not receive a GEC module and should operate under the guidelines laid forth in the Overseer's sealed orders. So Vault 101 didn't get a GEC, but then we also have a little piece about the GEC and how awesome it is, you know, the most advanced piece of technology ever developed. Terraforming module capability. Terraforming module capability of capable. There's a typo. Capable of creating life from complete lifelessness. After riding out the storm of nuclear Armageddon in a Vault-Tec patented vault, residents can use the GEC to make a new Earth paradise. We know that about the GEC. We talked about that a lot when we were doing Vault 87. And obviously, when you speak to James about Project Purity, he mentions that he realised that what was needed was a GEC, and possibly the reason that he came to Vault 101 wasn't just because your mother had died and he had this newborn baby that he wanted to keep safe, but he wanted to get access to some of Vault-Tec's systems to maybe find out more about the GEC or see what technology they had that could help with the water purifier. So an interesting one there. So we can look at a few things here. So we've got security dossiers on a bunch of people. So the tunnel snakes. If Butch and his leather-clad delinquents accost Amata one more time, they'll be they'll have more to deal with than their acerbic teacher. Their services have come in handy upon occasion, I must admit, but they're starting to become unruly. If dogs become feral, they must be put down. I'll have to remind Butch of that upon our next meeting. So obviously Butch and his pals being the tunnel snakes, he's annoyed that they're harassing Amata, but he's also making use of their services, so he's obviously been getting them to do things for him that would be, I guess, unbecoming of the overseer to do himself, whatever that happens to be. And if they become feral, they must be put down. So again, there's a kind of barely veiled threat that if the tunnel snakes do things that he doesn't like, he is prepared to move against them. And again, killing people when your community is supposed to be closed off, it's gonna really just push the community closer and closer to extinction. So probably not the wisest move, but anyway. Then we've got Beatrice. Just what Vault 101 needs, an absent-minded, sexually repressed sycophant. Beatrice has served Vault 101 admirably for years, but her mind is growing feeble. I'll have to speak with our good doctor about some kind of long-term pharmaceutical solution. We may at least be able to keep her comfortable and quiet until she passes on. So Beatrice, it's an older lady, and again, not some very kind of not nice things, just to kind of, he wants to keep her quiet until she dies, which is definitely questionable. And then Jonas. I never should have assigned Jonas as James's assistant. He was always too idealistic for his own good. Now he spends every waking minute with the good doctor, who gleefully fills his ears with even more idealistic nonsense. I've considered reassigning him, but the truth is, Jonas is a fine medic in his own right, and hiding him down in maintenance would be a terrible waste of resources. So again, he's kind of like, oh, there's, dissension here. He's not happy that Jonas is getting close to James, and James is telling Jonas about some kind of whatever the idealism. I'm guessing it's to do with providing the pure water for the wasteland and what's happening above. It's not very clear, but that's something he's obviously not happy about, the influence that James is having on Jonas, but he doesn't want to move him because Jonas is a good doctor, and that's something that the Vault's going to need if it's going to survive, that continuing to produce skilled doctors. So interesting. Then Amata, so he's got a security dossier on his daughter, which is interesting. Every time I try to get Amata to open up, she just pushes me further and further away. Since she was a child, I've tried to instill in her those virtues that have made this Vault what it is today: loyalty, honesty, commitment, and hard work. She does try, and with a lot of guidance, has grown into a fine young woman. That makes it all the sadder that she continues to alienate me. She looks at me and sees the overseer, not the father that has cared for her alone, since she was an infant. So it does seem like that's maybe something that Amata and the player character have in common, is that their mothers died when they were very young, or mothers left in some way when they were very young, and they were raised alone by their fathers. So it's an interesting one. And then we get to the scouting report. So these are much older, so 20 to 41, so that is 36 years ago from the current time in the game. So report. As our test suggested, the immediate vicinity of the vault is no longer dangerously irradiated, although the background radiation is still well above safe levels. Pockets of more intense radiation appear to still be common, and all surface water seems to be undrinkable. We will need to carry ample supplies of Radex with us on all future surveys, but hazard suits do not seem to be necessary for general exploration. Our old maps are largely useless. The town of Springvale is an abandoned ruin, and all pre-war roads have disappeared or are no longer passable. We encountered a group of monstrous ants, which appeared to confirm Mackay's theories of mutation due to extended exposure to radiation. We drove off the ants with gunfire and collected several specimens for study. Upon return to the vault, see Exhibit A. The good news is that human civilization still survives despite everything. We discovered a settlement known as Megaton, see Exhibit B, whose inhabitants, although somewhat wary at first, soon welcomed us into their town. We spent a good deal of time in Megaton and learned a great deal about the capital wasteland, as the area around Washington DC is now called, from them. Megaton is a fortified outpost of civilization of sorts, but it seems that giant ants are the least of the dangers of this new world. We agreed it was prudent to return to the vault immediately to revise our survey plans in light of what we have learned. Lewis and Agnes remained in Megaton to serve as ambassadors and continue to collect information until we return. Anne Palmer, survey team leader, February 10th, 2241. And then Exhibit A, we've got a picture of one of the giant ants, and Exhibit B is a picture of the door to Megaton, and there's what's his name again? I can't remember his name. Hang on. Stockholm, that's his name. Couldn't remember there, but yes, you can see, well, it might not be Stockholm actually, given the time frame. He doesn't seem that old, but yeah, there's a sniper above the Get Megaton that you can reach. So yeah, so we know that certain people got sent out of the vault and went to Megaton as ambassadors. Whether they came back or not, we don't really know. But that's kind of the situation as it currently stands. So at this point, the only option really left to us is to use the tunnel to escape the vault and head outside. Alarms are still going off. But yeah, so yeah, we see the outside world can never hurt you. Procreation is your civic duty. So you'll see these everywhere. Thank you, Overseer. And that was part of the experiment as well, was that not only was the Overseer basically completely omnipotent over the residents of Vault 101, but there was a lot of things that would brainwash people into believing that the Overseer was the only voice of reason and that he was, you know, the most important person, all the rest of it. You notice that in things like, obviously, these seek the sunshine of friendship. So we've got all these little messages that are everywhere, and the fact that, you know, the alarms are going off and everything, and the Overseer's announcements, it's only about the Radroach, nothing about the fact that security are running around killing people. It's not just the Radroaches that are the problem. And even when you do, if you take the GOAT exam, which I know a lot of people skip, especially after their first playthrough, because you can skip doing that, but I think it's quite funny, and the final question is, you know, like, you know, who is the most important person that we all should look up to and aspire to, and blah, 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 blah. And then all your answer choices are the Overseer. And I think you can tell by the way that Mr. Broch, the teacher, delivers that question, and the way his tone of voice is, that, you know, he's maybe got some feelings on that and isn't quite convinced that the Overseer is the best of us all and the be all and end all. And you kind of find that when we come back to do Trouble on the Home Front, that he ends up in prison because of something. So that's kind of the introduction to Vault 101, which is obviously the introduction to the game. You go through your characters sort of growing up from toddler stage, where you're just learning to walk, up to this point where you are about 18, 19 years old. And you are forced to leave the vault because your dad escaped the vault and everybody's really angry about it. So that pushes you to have to leave. And yeah, there's a picture of young Amata and her father. I'm going to take your bobby pins, Amata. So, you know, at this point we just need to leave the vault and go and find Dad. But once you've completed the Waters of Life, you will have the opportunity to come back here to solve a few problems. So we're now going to move forward in time a little bit, and get into what's happened in the vault while you've been out gallivanting around the wasteland. So we're just going to do a wee time skip, and I'll see you in the future. Okay, here we are. So we're now outside the entrance to Vault 101, and you can see Springvale down there, Megaton over there somewhere, and the Washington Monument in the distance. So we are at the point in the game, let's go into my quest log. So we have just completed the Waters of Life and picked up the quest to find a way into Vault 87, as well as Trouble on the Home Front. So once you've completed the Waters of Life, it's about 14 in-game days after that you pick up a signal.
Distress message from Vault-Tec. Vault 101. Message begins.
It feels like you left home a long time ago, but I know you're still out there. I just hope you're still alive to hear this. Things got worse after you left. My father's gone mad with power. If you can hear this, please stop looking for your dad and help stop mine. I changed the door password to my name. If you're hearing this, and if you still care enough to help me, you should remember it.
Message repeats. This is an automated distress.
There we go. So that's the message that pops up when you get close to this kind of area. So you can pick it up from like Megaton and things as well. So Amata has basically said, look, things have got worse since you left the vault. My dad's been a real problem. We need your help. So she's changed the password to her name so that you can get in and you can get back into Vault 101. So let's head in there and see what's going on. So yeah, you can see as well these signs outside the vault and the skeletons. Please let us in. Help. Yep, so we've entered the password. Yep, exit prohibited, so that's us into the vault. To find Jim Wilkins. Don't remember who you were, sir, but I'm sorry you're dead. And there's obviously still having some slight rad roach issues. Hello. That was a bit overkill there. And then Steve Armstrong again. Don't know who he was. He did have a stealth boy on him, so that's something. Yeah. Interesting. So we've got 2 dead people. I'm getting stuck on scenery. And we open this
Stop
door
right
and
there.
hello.
I don't know how you got in here, but hold on. Wait a minute. It's you. I hardly recognized you with all the dust and grime from out there. Guess that explains how you got that door open. You've got more experience with it than most everyone down here combined.
Yes, so don't mind me, just here to pick up some stuff. It's like I need to talk with Amata.
Amata's message. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'd keep that under your hat for her sake. She could get in real trouble if people found out she sent you a message. So could I, just for talking with you now.
Okay. I mean, I just had a hunch she was in trouble.
Maybe. She isn't the only one, that's for sure. Ever since last night, it's been madness down here. Nothing but trouble.
I think it's been more than one night, but sure. So what's actually been going on?
Let me bring you up to speed. It seems like it's been a mighty long time. The night you and your dad left, everything went crazy. Between the bugs and the confusion, we lost a lot of people. When your dad opened up that gate, he let loose a whole lot of crap, if you'll pardon my language.
Okay. So, yeah, Dad would be horrified to know all that if he was still alive.
I'm sorry to hear that. Regardless of how things turned out down here, he was a good friend. I always figured he'd do well outside. Matter of fact, a lot of folks started thinking he had the right idea. He usually did. So, if it was safe out there, why stay down here forever? Well, the Overseer didn't like that one bit and started cracking down on that sort of thought. Guess he didn't plan on you coming back.
I'm sure he didn't, so what now?
I probably ought to put you under arrest and take you into the Overseer, but frankly, I know better than to try that. Meanwhile, some of your old friends think opening the vault is a good idea. I bet those rebels would like a word with you, now more than ever. Of course, if you want, you can just walk away as if you were never here. Out of respect for your dad, I won't even tell anyone I saw you.
Okay, I'm gonna go and see what I can do.
Okay. Just be careful down here. The vault's changed, I tell you.
There we go. So, I mean, Officer Gomez has summarised the issue fairly succinctly there. It's not really a lot that I can add to that, what he said. So, yeah, basically, because your dad left, some people were just like, yeah, but why do we stay down here? What, you know, what's the point in staying down here? If he can leave and be fine, why should we stay if we're not going to, you know? So that's basically what's happened, is that the Vault has split into two different factions who are both kind of, and, you know, sort of seriously opposed to each other. And unfortunately, Amata is the leader of the faction that wants to open the vault, and her father is in charge of the faction that doesn't want to open the vault. So, yeah, interesting.
Uh-oh. Wait here. This doesn't look good.
You know I can't do that.
You won't get
Freddy.
away with that.
Now get back down below before I have to do something we'll both regret.
What? You're gonna lock me up like you did to Brotch? You can't cage a tunnel snake, man, because we rule!
Stay back!
Taylor, stop shooting, damn it!
Don't you know enough to stay away? I didn't mean to fire. I really didn't. I just wanted to scare him off. But he had a knife. I can't be too careful with those rebels.
Okay, well, what happened?
I lost my poor wife Agnes is what happened. And all the chaos and fighting, her old ticker just couldn't take it anymore.
Okay, I have to go now.
Yes, you do.
Right. So, yeah, they've unfortunately recruited this poor man to security, which is a shame because he's probably not physically fit to be doing that job. Oh, that's blocked off. So, yeah, you can see there's been several standoffs probably happened here. Okay, so, yep, we've got the cafeteria here, which is wrecked, and, oh, like, Janice Wilkins is dead as well. So we are finding a bunch of the Vault residents that have sadly passed away. And hard work is happy work. But this notice board is largely the same. Oh, there's an interesting one. So there's the Overseer himself standing ominously at the big circle window, and hard work is happy work, but hard and happy have been painted over, so work is work. You know, so that's interesting.
Go ahead and start something. I dare you.
Okay. Well, we head upstairs and see what's what. So, basically, you get given 3 options for dealing with this whole situation in Vault 101. But there's some new terminal entries and some nice ominous red lights. Hello.
You never should have left, kid. Now we'll make sure nobody ever leaves again.
Okay. Good for you, sir.
Look who's come waltzing back into the vault.
Hello,
It takes
Butch.
some real balls coming back here after everything you and your dad screwed up. But if you've got to be back, might as well make yourself useful. You gotta help us.
What kind of help do you want?
What sort of help do you think I mean? You must have heard about the changes since you left, right? The deaths, the lies, the whole overseer lockdown thing? Ringing any bells? Man, they'd have rushed in here long ago if they didn't know I stole one of their guns from when they issued martial law. Anyway, you gotta help us get out of here. You gotta help me get out of here.
Okay, so Butch here is presenting one of the options for dealing with this whole situation. So why do you need to get out of here so badly, Butch?
Because anything up there has got to be better than a lifetime of the same thing down here. Think about it, man. Down here, I'll always be stuck with the same job, with the same food, with the same people forever. You and your dad had the right idea. Get out of this pit and make your own life.
Okay, so what actually happened that night?
I heard old Stanley complaining a lot of the stuff down in the reactor got fried pretty bad. Nothing too bad yet, but he's always worrying we'll lose air filtration or whatever. Of course, if that happened, guess we'd all have to leave the vault then, huh?
Okay, and why should I help you specifically?
Because you've always been a goody two-shoes. So when I need help, it's what you're gonna do, right? You're gonna help Amata anyway, right? Just make it so we can leave the vault, and I'll leave and never bother you again.
Okay. So, yep, he's just like, yeah, you're a good person, so you're going to help me, even though he
Catch you
obviously,
later. Maybe.
as we know, was a bully to our player character for most of our childhood. Yeah, so Butch has presented an optional objective on the quest log there, which is to sabotage Vault 101. So the two options that we've got is to open the vault and allow the residents to go out into the wasteland and explore, but have the vault as a home. Option 2 is that we encourage a lockdown of the entire vault and stop anybody from leaving ever again, and completely lock down and close off the community once and for all. Or option 3 is to sabotage the vault so everybody has to leave whether they want to or not, and they have to then find their own way in the wasteland. So that's what Butch has suggested, and the way you would do that is to break the water chip, because of course it's the water chip. It's always the water chip. It's always the water system that's the problem in these vaults. So not a huge surprise there. I've got some people in the classroom. So hi, Susie. And then we've got
You'd be back.
old Lady Palmer, who made us the sweet roll for our birthday back in the day. And they're just kind of hiding here in the classroom. So this is us at the location where the rebels are. Hello, Amata.
Oh my god, you're back!
Yep.
You got my message and actually came back.
Yep, I came... yeah, you can be quite mean to her, but yeah, I came as soon as I heard you were in trouble.
Oh, thank you! Everything's gone crazy since you left, and now that you're back, you can help set things straight.
So, yeah, we can be like, no, I need to know more, or you can say you saved my life, so the least I can do is help you, or I might have left, but I grew up here, I can't leave it in chaos, so I think we'll go with that one.
I just wish we could have saved more people. Jonas and the Hannons and so many others died that night. It was bad enough they died because my father was trying to keep the door closed, but then I found out it was all to protect a lie. I found out the vault wasn't always closed. They've lied to us about it for our entire lives.
That explains why I found an old Vault 101 suit outside.
I heard we sent a couple of scouts outside long ago. Maybe the suit was theirs. The vault was open for a while, but for some reason they closed it off when we were babies and everyone swore to deny it had ever happened. But then Jonas died, and they're keeping us locked in here, all to protect that fantasy of remaining untainted by the outside world.
Okay, so you can kind of say, well, going outside is crazy. Actually, it's my dad's fault, he started it. You can say, so just leave. Or you can say he's gone mad with power and needs to be stopped.
You're absolutely right. It's not like we want to abandon the vault or anything. Well, Butch does, but he's too big a coward to go out on his own. Most of us had accepted that the outside was certain death, and things would always stay the same down here. But now we know they don't have to be. After all, it was enough to get you and your dad to leave, so there must be something good out there.
So yeah, you can just say, screw this, I'm out. But why is the Overseer doing this?
I don't know. Maybe he thinks he's protecting us, but all he's really doing is condemning us. I thought parents were supposed to want a better world for their children.
Well,
Well,
you would think.
there's a new world waiting right outside that door, and we're not going to give up until we can reach it.
So we can ask her what happened that night as
The
well.
real problems came after you two left. The injured had nobody to turn to since our doctor had run off and his assistant had died. Now, we've got to rely on that old Mr. Handy for most of our medical needs, and he hasn't exactly got the best bedside manner. Ever had an examination from someone with cold, metal pincers? You don't want to.
Well, I can imagine. So yep, I am going to go now and
Be careful.
sort this out. Well, actually, we're not really going to sort it out. We're just going to chat about it. But yep, so this is where the rebels are. So there's Freddy Gomez, and this is obviously the clinic, which has kind of been tidied up somewhat, but is also where the rebel group are camping. So there's two factions in this vault now, and then yeah, hello Andy.
How may I serve
There's
you,
Beatrice. Hello.
Ah, another patient. What's it to be, eh? Appendectomy? Tonsillectomy? Hysterectomy?
Sure. What happened?
Ah, yes, a rather unfortunate incident. In all the commotion, Miss Beatrice suffered a rather bad sprain in her left toe. The big one. Obviously, I had no choice but to amputate the leg. Yeah, I'm sorry to say the operation was not a success.
Yep, they made you the doctor.
But of course, with your father's departure from the vault and Jonas's untimely demise, the Overseer had to take swift action. And so he named me the new Vault Medical Practitioner. A marvelous decision, if I do say so myself. I am fully equipped, after all.
Yep. Okay, no, I'm not asking him to heal me.
Of course, don't let me keep you.
Yeah, I'm not asking him to heal me because, yeah, I feel like amputating a leg is quite an extreme treatment for a sprained toe. And yeah, as you can see, sadly, Beatrice did not survive. There's the rest of her. Yeah, so it's, I find this quite funny, but it's also kind of horrific. So there you go. So there's a couple of things that we can find in here now. That you can open this little hidden safe, where you can get a copy of the rocket launcher schematics, a little message, and a bottle cap. So yeah, now we can make better rocket launchers, and then there's a little note here.
Well, here we are, nestled all safe and snug inside Vault 101. It's so cold down here. Colder still with Catherine gone. Oh, Catherine, I so wish you were here with me. How the hell am I supposed to do this by myself? Live down in this hole. Take care of our child. But this is our life now. So I guess I'd better get used to it. The overseer who runs the place is an overbearing bully. But I've dealt with worse.
There we go. So yep, there's a little recording from Dad
How may I serve you,
/
mistress?
Liam Neeson, talking about the they've come down to this vault to live, and he's obviously still grieving Catherine's death, and he's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but also getting an opinion on the overseer, which is interesting. And then we can have a look at the medical system. So they're confidential, but I'm going to share them with the internet anyway, because I just am. So just a few wee things. So Freddie Gomez. Freddie's VDS is getting worse. Most days he can't even get out of bed. When he does manage to function, Freddie hides his insecurities and low self-esteem behind a bully's mask. Vault-Tec medical protocols dictate the prescription of anti-anxiety medication when Vault Depressive Syndrome, that's what VDS means, is involved. But do I really want to string the kid out on chlorpromazine for the rest of his life? So yeah, so this is something that has been kind of evident as Vault Depressive Syndrome. So people that have become depressed for whatever reason because of the vault, whether it's the fact that everything's the same and the routine and things, and they just find it really difficult. But he's reluctant to start him on anti-anxiety medications, which is understandable. I mean, you know, these kind of medications that are used for mental health disorders, while they can be very helpful, they can be very beneficial to people, they do bring their own set of problems, and sometimes the side effects, having been on them for quite a long time, can be quite problematic, and I can say that from personal experience as well. And then Stanley continues to suffer from severe and chronic head pain. I've been feeding him aspirin like it's candy, but I'm reticent to give him anything stronger. He blames the lighting in his quarters, and though eye strain is certainly compounding the problem, the headaches are actually a symptom of overwork and lack of sleep. Knowing Stanley and the schedule the overseer has him on, the problem isn't likely to get better anytime soon, so it's aspirin indefinitely. So Stanley, who is one of the kind of maintenance guys, is suffering from chronic headaches, and James thinks it's probably because he's working horrible long shifts and not getting enough sleep. And then Amata, once again, the overseer has insisted on being in the room for Amata's examination, throwing any inkling of doctor-patient confidentiality right out the window. I know he doesn't trust me, he never has, but I honestly believe the reason he attends his daughter's medical appointments is because he doesn't trust her. That's as ridiculous as it is sad. Amata is a great girl, and the chance of her doing something stupid, like pregnancy, syphilis, whatever, is so unlikely it's not even worth mentioning. So yeah, he's kind of feeling like the overseer is being quite an overbearing parent to Amata, and, you know, kind of sitting in on her doctor appointments and things like that, which, especially as she gets older, can be really awkward, you know, and patients should have that kind of confidentiality. But yeah, and then we've got some experiments. So the cells are still replicating normally, no mutation, thank God. If whatever's out there could penetrate this vault, I can't even begin to imagine what the overseer would do. Then another experiment. After borrowing a few more water chips and rewriting some of the power here in the clinic, I've finally been able to affect the latest sample. It's not much, but considering what I have to work with, it's I'm guessing that's supposed to be, it's a definite step in the right direction. But this new experiment was also monumental for another reason. It's the first time Jonas has assisted me. He's suspected forever, I know, so I guess it was inevitable, and his help has been invaluable. I just hope he knows what he's gotten himself into. So that kind of gives us a bit of a hint that these experiments that your character's father, James, was doing was him still working on the problem of Project Purity.
Come on, pay more attention to what you're doing.
You know, sort of Project Purity and all the rest of it. So he's really trying to figure it out, and that's what he's done the whole time that he's been here in the vault and things. So yeah, so it says back to that blocked off door. So yeah, it's interesting, and that gives us a bit more insight into what our father was doing while he was here, and then he left when he realised that he wasn't going to get any further and he needed to find a Gek, and that's what he did. So gonna head back up here. So yep, now we want to go to the overseer's office. Amata's bedroom's just been left trashed. I don't know why he's got cinder blocks, but... So, yep, we can open the door, and there he is, just standing at the window being all creepy. So...
Well,
hello.
I see you've returned.
Yep.
Done with the dust and ruins of the wasteland, are you? Given up looking for Daddy? Thought you could just slink back in like a teen missing curfew? Well, that's too bad. You have no future in this vault. You're tainted.
Ah. Okay. So, yeah, you can just be like, you killed Jonas. You can say, no one in the vault has much of a future. Lay off the evil banter, I'm just curious. And you're dead. So you can kill him at this point, which does resolve the quest, although Amata's not going to be 100% happy with you. So with your leadership, no one in this vault has much of a future.
That would be where you're wrong, young man. By locking down this vault, I'm protecting its future. In fact, I was protecting its future when I had to make those unpleasant choices the night you and your father...
What, by killing a bunch of people?
I only wish I could have stopped your father before he left. If anyone's to blame for the unpleasantness, it's him.
Okay. So don't try and justify your murders and lies. They were never threats.
Spoken like someone who's never had to make difficult decisions. Like someone who's never had to lead. Jonas was leaving with your father. Their departure would lead to others leaving as well. And before you know it, half of the vault would be gone.
Uh-huh.
And then, our home, the last safe, pure bastion of humanity, would be reduced to a lonely handful of aging holdouts. Too few to continue.
Okay, but if you kill a bunch of people in order to preserve that, then the same thing's going to happen. So, yeah, you can say you're not protecting your people, you're destroying them. Can't you see that? The vault doesn't have to be isolated in order to keep its residents safe, or I think you've got a good point, but things still need to change. So I'm just going to say, you're not protecting your people, you're destroying them.
I'm afraid you're the short-sighted one here. I'm simply keeping them safe and untouched by the war above. The real danger are the rebels and insurgents who insist on risking all of our lives just to die out there in the wastes. If they weren't trying to throw our lives away like that, we could go back to the peaceful life we once had. Everyone would be happy again.
So, yeah, the rebels are upset because you lied to them about the outside.
They have to understand that we did that to keep them from going outside and getting killed. To keep them from making the same mistake our generation did when we were their age. Some of us already lost loved ones out there long ago. We won't lose any more today.
Uh-huh. Okay, so
yes, you do.
We can leave that as it is for now. So there is a way of kind of talking him round, and then he steps down as overseer and Amata takes over. But we're going to have a look at his computer. So we've got the Vault-Tec instructions, which obviously we looked at before. Scouting reports are the same as before. Let's see. So yeah, we've got some new security dossiers. So the rebels. An alliance of rebels has formed in my vault, dedicated to the wholly destructive goal of reopening the vault to the outside world. Amata and Edwin Broch are the leaders of the band, with those ridiculous tunnel snakes making up its muscle, along with a handful of other youths and naive idealists. Attempts to isolate and demoralise the group are proceeding apace. Edwin Broch has been jailed for his attempt to lead a direct attempt to open the vault's door, and their members have holed up in the old clinic and schoolroom. Their dwindling food and proximity to the dangerous Dr. Andy are sure to drain the morale from their rebellion until they give up and are welcomed back into our happy family again. So putting Andy, the Mr. Handy, as the doctor seems to be a deliberate thing to reduce their morals and things. And then there's the note about Amata, but this is an updated one. So it pains me dearly to know that Amata is behind the rebellious element in my vault. If she weren't their leader, it would be a simple matter to break their spirits and bring them back in line with the Vault's time-proven isolation plan, but with her as a central figure in their rebellion, I must refrain from the more persuasive tactics at security's disposal. I will not repeat the mistakes of that night again. The Vault cannot afford it, and I cannot bear to drive my daughter further away from me. Despite everything, I take great pride in her natural talent for leadership, and when she inevitably comes around, I feel she would make a worthy successor to the position of overseer. So even though he's angry about the rebels and things, he is still like, well, at least she's shown good leadership skills and things, so if she kind of stops this talking about leaving the Vault, maybe she'll be a good overseer. And he's talking about keeping people safe from the outside world, and at first you might think, oh well, you know, the radiation's not that bad and the creatures aren't that bad if you're not, you know, but here's the kicker. So the Vault recently received unexpected radio contact over the governmental Vault-Tec frequency from an organisation calling itself the Enclave. Governmental codes are valid according to the Vault's ancient records, and the Enclave put forth an offer of amnesty and unity with the official remnants of the American government in exchange for access to the Vault and its data stores. They claim our Vault passwords no longer match their records, preventing them from extending their offer in person. After brief negotiation, I have refused entrance to this Enclave. I cannot trust my Vault and its inhabitants to an unknown factor, much less one that would so gallantly suggest abandoning our Vault's great mission. All the more reason to prevent the rebels from opening the Vault to the likes of them. So while most people don't really agree with the Overseer's decision, we do have a note that's been added to our thing, which is obviously just everything that we've just read, but that gives us the proof really that the Overseer, as much as he is a bit of a tyrant and things, he does kind of have a point.
Why won't you just leave us alone? You've done enough damage.
So, you know, that kind of shows that he kind of has a point, because the Enclave are trying to gain access to the Vault, and actually, if you look, there is a Enclave camp in Vertibird not too far away from the Vault, so he does have a point, because the Enclave, you know, they're not really going to be good for the residents of the Vault. But that gives us proof that we need to show, and that can convince Amata that our fathers may be right, or we can go and try and convince the Overseer that Amata's right, and that's what we need to do, or we can go and break down the water chip and destroy the Vault completely, so everybody's forced to leave, and then that's what happens. But it really does kind of, it's quite a chaotic quest, and if you do open up the Vault or sabotage the Vault, Butch does leave, and you can find him in Rivet City, and if you've got neutral karma, he will be a companion, so you can actually hang out with him if that's something you want to do. But if you kill both Amata and the Overseer, which now neither of them are marked as essential, so you can kill both of them, then the Vault just devolves into chaos. And if everybody dies, then the Radroaches move in properly and take over. And remember that doing this quest is your last chance to get the medicine bobblehead from the clinic if you didn't collect it at the beginning of the game. I'm not going to run through the endings, because I think it would be more interesting to do for yourself if you've never done this quest before. But I do think it's really interesting, and what happens and who's here can be affected to some degree by what you did during escape. So if you killed the Overseer while you were escaping the Vault the first time, then Alan Mack becomes the Overseer, and he can't be reasoned with. He is not going to be reasoned with at all, so you do end up resorting to violence to deal with him. That's just the way it goes, and the message that Amata sends and what she says will be different, and her feelings on your actions. So if you kill Overseer Almodovar, Amata's father, she's going to be quite upset about that, understandably, you know, as much as she's against him and they disagree on whether the Vault should be opened or not. He's still her father, and she's still going to be upset about that, whereas if he's already dead. I mean, she's upset when you do it the first time as well, but she's a bit more kind of reasonable and understanding about you know, about the situation, and kind of accepts that you maybe had to do it. And that's the thing, that while you have options for dealing with Vault 101, I think that makes it really, really interesting, because you can approach it in so many different ways in accordance with your playstyle and, you know, the kind of the feelings that you might have about how things went at the beginning, because you were basically forced to leave the vault and become homeless. So given that you didn't really have much choice, you might feel that it's only fair that you do the same to them and give them no choice and force them to leave the vault. But maybe you want to help your friend Amata because you think she's right, or maybe you want to kind of tell them to close down, and you know, potentially because of the problems with the enclave and things, that maybe the overseer's right. Or you can just completely ignore it and let them sort it out themselves. Eventually, once you progress to a certain point in the main quest, if you don't come back to the vault, then the message stops and you can't access the vault again. Although sometimes I think if you go to the pit DLC and then come back, it can trigger it again. But it is, you know, it's an option that you can just completely ignore it and say to hell with those people, they can sort it out themselves if that's how you feel. So it does really give you a lot of options, but the end result for your character is that you can't return to the vault in the end. So whatever you do decide, you will be kind of forced to leave. And the thing about that, it really reflects the ending of the original Fallout game. And what Amata says to you is very much reminiscent of that, you know, you're a hero, or you saved us, and now you have to leave and you can't come back. So it really does help. What's this say? Oh, raid on rebels, this from security. So increased agitation, come to the conclusion we can't be merciful, so they propose a midnight raid, live ammo, zero tolerance, make an example of the first two who fight back and the rest will fall in line, and not to tell the overseer, because some of the security guards might object. And yeah, so, you know, given the security team all that power, it has made them just as dangerous. So yeah, but yeah, we did just let Mr. Broch free, our teacher, and he's part of the rebel faction as well. And while, you know, the whole kind of arc of the main story is that, you know, the game begins with your character being born, and then you kind of build your character through their childhood until they're, you know, sort of reach adult stage, and then they have to leave the vault to find their dad, and everything happens, and the game essentially ends with your character's death, which could be real or it could be kind of figurative, with the, you know, the fact that you push Sarah to turn on the purifier and then you just walk away and leave, and that kind of thing. So, you know, there's that kind of thematic, and while the ending of this main story is questionable, and that is something that I'm going to be getting into at some point in the future when we cover the main story of Fallout 3, the ending is questionable. There's a lot of plot holes there, and it kind of is better and worse if you've got broken steel, but that's a whole other conversation. But I do feel that this point in the story where you've gone out, you found your dad, and then you've lost your dad again because he gets killed, and then you get this message to come back to Vault 101 to help because problems have arisen since you left. So this does mark what I would consider a turning point for your player character, that, you know, you've gone back to your childhood home, which was the only home you knew until your dad left the vault, and that all happened. So it's still something that you're going to feel some kind of way about, whether you resented it, whether you hated it, whether you loved it. Either way, you know, and part of the role-playing thing is that you can decide, you know, what your character feels based on what they experienced and that kind of thing. So I think it's an interesting turning point, and that you're put in the position of making a decision that's going to affect everybody in this vault, and you have to decide what you think is the right thing to do, and you then are left with the consequences of that, because the vault, whatever you decide to do, the vault is going to be changed forever, and you're dealing with this society that's been completely closed and cut off. And if they stay that way, eventually extinction's going to happen. That's an inevitability. It's just the way these things go. But if they open up the vault, then they're putting themselves at risk, you know, from all the dangers that are out in the wasteland, from giant cockroaches to the Enclave, radiation, death claws, whatever, you know, whatever kind of chaos that they come across. And there's a difference between, you know, opening the vault in a controlled way and saying, okay, well, you can send exposition teams out to trade with people and to explore, and then they can come back and stay in the vault and they still stay in relative safety, versus Butch's suggestion where you sabotage the vault so it can no longer sustain life, and that forces everybody to leave the vault against their will. So you're, you know, that's probably the most cruel option, because you're taking the choice away from these people and you're not letting them decide. They have no choice but to leave the vault, which unfortunately means that a lot of them are probably going to end up dead. So, you know, but if that's what you want to do, same as, you know, if you decide to blow up Megaton, that kind of a thing, then fair enough. And that's kind of the point, you know, it's kind of the point of any RPG, is that you have the freedom to make those decisions, and then you may or may not stumble across consequences to your choices. So, yeah, it's a very interesting one, and there's kind of a lot to this, you know, kind of whole story, and you do learn bits and pieces that, you know, the vault was supposed to be completely sealed off with no contact, and we know that there were other vaults like that. You know, for example, you know, Vault 13, Vaults 32, 33, who were basically just there to be breeding stock for all the junior executives in Vault-Tec and that kind of thing. So we have seen this kind of thing, but the same thing happens, and a lot of the times when you deal with the Brotherhood of Steel in these games, particularly when you do Veronica's personal quest in Fallout New Vegas, and it's about how the Brotherhood, being isolationist and a closed off society, eventually you're either going to have to stop being so closed off and isolated and allow outsiders into your society, or you're going to risk that eventually you're just going to die out. And that's something that is an inevitability for all these situations. So at some point,
go ahead and start something. I dare you.
You know, a decision is going to have to be made, because a completely isolated society isn't sustainable forever. Nice. And eventually something's going to have to change. So it's interesting. It's interesting, and it's something that I do really like, the fact that you can come back here and you can kind of interfere or intervene in the situation in the vault. But obviously the Overseer is trying to kind of maintain his control over the vault and over people's situation, and he says that he wants to save people and he wants to keep everybody safe, but a lot of people have died in the vault. You know, a lot of people have died in the fighting. There's literally 2 bodies right here, you know, and you find a few others dotted about in the vault. So, you know, killing people isn't really a way to save them, and it kind of goes against what he wants to achieve, which is to kind of maintain this closed off society and keep everybody safe and secure. But allowing security to have that much power and to just kill people because they feel like it's the right thing to do, and they don't really care, and there's no consequences when it's potentially, you know, not rebellious people. We don't really know. We don't, I mean, the two people that are there, we don't know who they are, but, you know, the fact that they're dead, and the overseer keeps saying, oh, but I wanted to keep everybody alive, and I wanted to keep everybody safe. Yeah, he's doing that. He thinks he's going to achieve that by killing people and alienating people. So it really was inevitable that something was going to happen in this vault at some point. There was going to be, you know, a civil war, essentially, and that's kind of what's happening here. Or something's going to happen to change things, and then you can come and intervene and change things for the better or change things from the worst, if that's what you want to do. So yeah, Vault 101 is kind of an interesting one. It's kind of iconic, obviously being the opening of Fallout 3, which for a lot of modern gamers was their first introduction to the Fallout franchise and to this universe. And I think it's so interesting because there's so much to it, and it's one thing that I like about these games. And if you know my favourite games, obviously the Fallout series, they're all in my top 10, and Dragon Age, and I do really enjoy Skyrim, and Oblivion I played back in the day as well, and just the rich kind of lore and backstory and everything that you can kind of uncover and learn is what makes these games so interesting to me. You know, it's something, I mean, I wish I'd kind of known about the original games back in 1997, but I was definitely not into any kind of PC gaming back then. So I was only 11 years old at that time, so yeah. But I have played the older Fallouts now as well, and I think they're all great. I think they're all great, and I love Dragon Age, and I love just finding things and getting into storytelling and world building. As I've mentioned many times, world building for fiction is one of my biggest things, and it's something that I really enjoy doing and really enjoy talking about. So kind of summary really about Vault-Tec, as we can see that they built all these vaults. They were just really out to make money and to push their own agenda. They wanted to be the saviours and be in charge of the post-war world no matter what, and carried out a lot of horrific experiments and made a lot of people suffer under the pretense that they were going to save people in the event of a nuclear event. And obviously we've seen a lot of the horrible things that they've done. The rest of this playlist does have pretty much every vault that is accessible in the games, and also talking about the vaults that we see in the TV show, because I think they're very interesting as well. And we still don't really have an answer to the question, because obviously there's all these experiments going on in the vaults, and some of them are still going on even in 2296, and we don't really know who's collating all the data, who's collecting all that data. Is anyone collecting the data? Is anyone doing anything with all that information and all that, all these results that they've got from this horrific experiment that they're doing on people? We don't really know, and I don't know if we'll ever find out. It might be something that's more fun to keep as a mystery so that we can speculate on it, but it does seem a bit pointless to me. I mean, the experiments are obviously horrendous and unethical, but if you're going to go to all that trouble to do these things, I mean, in Vault 111, I hate to think how much liquid nitrogen they actually had to ship up there to keep those freezers running for 200 years. But we never really know. I don't think we'll ever find out exactly if Vault-Tec in the background are collecting data, because Dr. Braun doesn't seem to care. He's too busy living in his virtual reality and tormenting people, and Bud Askins is a Roomba. So his ability to affect things is probably quite limited, other than the computer systems of the three connected vaults. But we don't know if he's getting data sent from any of the other vaults. or not. We just don't know. So that is Vault 101, the beginning and the end, and the end of this series about Vault-Tec, at least for now, until we get back into some more vaults and things. I say I'm not going to cover the ones in Fallout 76 because I don't have access to that on the PC. I haven't really played it since kind of just after launch. Kind of did everything in the main story at that point. I have heard it is a lot better, but online gaming like that isn't really my kind of thing anyway. So I'm not going to talk about those vaults, but if we get, season 2 of the TV show in the next couple of years, or if we do get a new game in the next decade, and there's new vaults to talk about, then I'll probably come back to it. But other than that, that's me signing off on this series just now. And I do have something quite interesting planned to fill this slot from next week onwards. So there is a lot more to come. And if you're interested in more Fallout lore, we've got the Science of Fallout series. We're currently focusing on the creatures that you find in Far Harbor in Fallout 4. And we also have the Wasteland Biography series, where I'm focusing on talking about some of the smaller stories about people in the Wasteland that you can stumble across. Instead of talking about the big players that everybody knows, I'm trying to find some of these kind of smaller stories about people. So if that's something you think's interesting, then check it out, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.